Hey, good day. This is Mr. Benning, and welcome to lesson 2 of biology. We're going to look at the nature of science. And what we want to look at is that we want to understand that science is a process based on inquiry that seeks to develop explanations. That's all science is. So you need to know what science is, the characteristics of it. You can compare stuff that's scientific with maybe something that's pseudoscientific. And you can define what the importance of the metric system in SI. Some of the basic things you want to do. So let's look at science. Okay, what is science? If you were to define science, how would you define it? Well, a science is basically defined and specifically, just anything, is the body of knowledge on the study of nature. So it's kind of like, okay, we're looking at nature, and this is what science is. So we've got a lot of stuff on science here. There are many different sciences. So you've got biology, like this course. You got chemistry, physics, earth science, space science, physics, just different kinds of broad sciences that can be studied, and they're kind of like subset after that. But let's talk about what is some of the stuff that it does. One thing that science is that it relies on evidence. So science is heavily reliant on evidence. So we're looking at scientific laws or theories. So let's look at this. An observation is something that I see. You see it, you look at it, you observe it. What do you see? You hear me. You're going to hear me say that enough that you're going to get sick of it. A hypothesis is is like the basic guess, okay, on why the observation happens. So you make a guess at it, that's your hypothesis. So you're looking at a hypothesis on why something happened. A theory is after you make your hypothesis, you go through the experimental design, you develop a theory. And that is a hypothesis with lots of data is basically how I would define it. It's an explanation it's a hypothesis. That's what a hypothesis is. It's an explanation of an observation, but it's many observations that encompasses a lot of data that can give us a theory. Now, a law, on the other hand, is something that, as we go through time, scientific laws are very general and universal. So it is basically the order of, and this is like increasing confidence. So as we go down that list, the confidence in what it is increases. So a law is a general statement that is always true. So now, like, it also expands scientific knowledge. So like new theories, or what science does, it actually expands knowledge. We could get like more into general time, whether we define a new species, okay? Extend a current theory, or even cancel. An accepted theory. That does happen as well, because what science does, it challenges everything that's accepted. And sometimes when good science happens, when we get new data, okay, or when new observations happen that challenges what we know about a theory, we have to change the theory. We have to change your hypothesis. So, like a couple things that we looked at. Let's look at cells, for example. Cells were thought. Let's try this again. To come dust. So, like, they thought that the dust just caused all this stuff in here, not to mention didn't know how they work. When you take the first one, a guy we might know about this process called pasteurization, done by a guy by the name of Pasteur, actually proved that dust didn't cause bacteria to form or cause things to happen. It had already those microbes in there. And not only that, then you got like other people who allowed advances in DNA and the small organelles of the cell to kind of look at from there. We talked in some of the classes, we talked about AIDS. AIDS went from being a known to being something that we can now not lie. Let's try this again. Live with. It questions the results. So we always go through a so like it questions everything. So science is all about questions. Okay, so we always asking. So scientists just that which one might head towards, whether they need to, like, grouping. Like one they looked at in the book is grouping bats from birds to mammals. So kind of some different things that's went on from there. So now scientists always tries to test claims or various claims that they have. So like anytime that we may have a theory, it can be tested. So good science is what we call testable. If I go out, if I got enough equipment, I can go do what any scientist can do. and repeat the results. And following their procedure, I can repeat the results. A couple of things that you want to look at. Pseudoscience. Is untestable because all of these have no idea there's there's nothing to test. So if there's nothing to test, you make a claim, you can't test it, it's pseudoscience. If you can test it, we can call it science. It goes under peer review. So scientists make sure the results are good. Okay, so other scientists what we call double the results. So if I come up with a new theory, I'll write a paper on it. I'll send it up to other scientists to make sure that that we can determine if that is good science or not. Not only that, they use the metric system. So there are 4 basic types of units. Everything starts with a length, volume, mass, or time. So time, the metric system, the length uses the meter. The volume uses the liter. Mass, they use the kilogram. Time is just the second. Dots off. So now, we see a lot of science every day. One thing that's been really big for about 15 years, you know that you've seen the shows like NCIS, and different things like that. You'll notice that they use the field of forensics. So forensics is what that scientists use to kind of determine if a crime has happened. So like one thing that I did was I would test blood for knowledge of alcohol. If there was any alcohol in the blood, that was my expertise. And so I could use science to kind of prove if somebody was guilty of being drunk or not. One thing that I do talk about a lot is science, ethics. I always want to talk about that because ethics in science is more what we call moral choices. So if you look at your moral choices, everybody's got their own moral choices, and those ethics can kind of help form what you think about different sciences. So like a couple things that was about 15 years ago, was using it was like one thing was cloning. Was cloning an ethical thing? Some people said that was a good thing. And others say it's bad. So we have that debate, and I've not heard anything about it in the last 20 years. So I'm guessing like when we get to human cloning, it's kind of like better not do that. Another thing you look at is stem cell research. Using aborted fetuses or aborted babies. Some people are like, well, we shouldn't be doing that. Others are saying, you know what, it's okay. I mean, you look at science in the news, you see science all the time, whether it's through climate. Climate change is kind of a big one now. You see that quite a bit. You might hear them talk about DNA evidence and other things along those lines. But it's always good to kind of know your science, to kind of say, you know what, that's good science, that's not so good science. Maybe I can read the report, maybe I can understand what was going on. But making sure that you know science is important to make an informed decision, okay? I will end with this. There was if the Green Party, I will go ahead and list this one. I like to talk about banning what I call DHMO, dihydrogen monoxide, H2O. Excuse me. And so banning water is one of these things that, because I list it as dihydrogen monoxide, sounds chemically, and I use that to kind of illustrate to know science. I can routinely get about 65 to 70% of kids, like about 3/4 of my students, vote to ban. Okay, so they vote to ban, quote unquote, ban water, and I kind of illustrate that to say, hey, you need to know science, and it's kind of a good thing. There have been cases. One, the Green Party, in I want to say around 2002, somewhere between 2002 and 2006. The Green Party, meaning these were environmentalists, in a priority in their national campaign. It would be like, the Republicans or Democrats saying, hey, we need to vote to ban water. We need to vote to ban water. So just be aware that knowing science is important and something that you need to know how to do. I hope this helps. I will talk to you guys later.